because I couldn't find really any good songs. So I asked to change songs to something like that being song. I wasn't so sure about my song. I did research about it and song, what I wanted to do. In song class, I researched about song-related songs. The most popular song and cuss song.
Yeah, I don't know what the next Sunday is.
Guys, look at my powerful Russian people. The cringe is so real.
No, what did
It looks so like sophisticated, like G.
Except we've also got to get all these people.
I'm happy that we're going first.
Wait, we have the primary kids?
With the we're
Definitely all the LE kids.
No, this is like, I'm gonna show you something. I'm not gonna.
But what happens to the people who are presenting in February?
They haven't yet.
This is the same thing as that. I mean, it's a lot.
And there's more of them.
I have my first basketball practice of the year. I feel so. Hopefully I don't get injured.
Yeah, there. Do you want to do something kind of cool this afterwards? Do you? Scare break?
How? Ooh.
Yeah.
You should play that one.
Yeah, that one's really cool. Is that a true or lightning?
What happens if you put like a 360 video in it? Like a 360?
Oh, then you'll see a 360.
Or like sound.
Wait, then we should try to.
Yeah, you just go ear and combo.
Someone right here. Someone else sit here. Please don't.
I'm going third.
I'm so cold right now.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
Nikki, why do you use tape?
And we're still.
Instead of plastic? Are you playing like music? Yeah.
Yeah, I got 4 per girls in my
Exactly, that's it. Definitely did.
I'm sitting in the bed.
You can get that on this.
Yeah, I understand.
But it's it.
There's
There's actually a weird holographic strip.
Why would you?
Like, it's not even funny. How would you it makes up more than a half of the hologram video. It's like 75%.
There's children coming.
Hi. I'm seeing you. Guys, should we hug this with you?
We're so
Yes,
funny.
and the VHB is supposed to be responsible for sharing
Yeah, we need to
She's like,
empower
okay,
other
wait,
people.
guys, come here. I'm just like, okay, bye.
But what do you mean inside? That's supposed to be like
Why?
Nikki, what are you?
Yeah,
like,
one of those like
what are you
Sports
doing?
Illustrated. Why not?
you're interested in those.
That's a
Bye.
That's a typical Nikki.
What a cloud.
What?
Wait, Nikki, put it on replay so it just keeps on replaying.
Yeah, I can get it loud.
Like rain. I'm really.
But it
I
actually
don't even know why I'm so freaking. I'm always so cold. I'm never this cold.
wear this.
No, I don't want to wear that.
Oh,
Oh, whoa!
Teddy.
Oh, I like the jellyfish. It's so pretty.
It's all the same thing though.
Yeah, look at that.
Anything else?
One's a hummingbird and one's a
You should have
jellyfish.
used that like big iPad.
Oh, here's
You know, like
a
that.
fish. Oh, it's a shark.
No, it's a fish.
No, it's a shark.
It's a plane.
It's a shark. So
No, that's a fish. This is a fish.
I know, it was turning the other way and I could see it. I want to like touch it. It looks so weird.
No, I'm just joking.
Wait, whoa, look at the earth.
That looks cool.
The earth looks cool.
Right there, that's it.
Yeah, it's class.
I don't know what it was, but it was a lot of volatile viruses.
It's so fancy.
That's your best thing.
Yeah, so you should see the exploding car reversal.
I saw him.
Did you watch the movie?
You don't watch the movie on this yet.
You have a holographic movie and I put it in that format.
You know, it turns out they've also got this thing
Those are
called
throw. You should eat tea. You should eat tea.
So,
I do coffee every day.
Coffee's actually
cooler
bad.
than
I take 4
I'm not surprised.
It's good for you.
I thought you were eating. What's the difference?
Mine's like
Yeah, it is.
mine's not ADHD. I actually went back to the autism after about you said no, you have ADHD, not ADHD. And then you have ADD, not ADHD. See, that's the ADHD. No.
everything okay.
Attention disorder. Attention disorder.
Attention defibrillator disorder.
Are you trying to stick your slides?
Yeah.
what?
Alan, we came to see you.
I might stop your name or
Alan, you remind me of my pain.
Like each class. Oh no.
I don't know what to do. I'm sad.
10 minutes. No. Yeah, class. I'm sure like we're with some 20 students. Yeah, like that's double. I have. Yeah, right. Shoot, I forgot to bring my. Oh, you should be in line.
Invite me.
Guys, I'm gonna get an 8 because
How
I'm
did
gonna
you
do
just
right
like
there.
Alan, we came to see you. We came to see you. How's my
Oh, you know what? You today my infographic.
I left my friend.
You know what made me
like that?
I didn't do
So after we're done, we have to go see the other session. That was my time.
No, we should stay here because the arms are gonna come down here.
Yeah, we just stay here. Or you guys can go wherever you want. Me, I can sit there.
You know what I'm saying? Like with Bruce, like Bruce and Matthew are presenting. Are they gonna come?
I didn't do that.
I didn't hear that.
How about all of you?
Yeah.
Stay!
They do.
It's your birthday. That one there. That one there. Yes, yeah. Hey, give up.
8GP. My 8GP. That's the side.
I'll have to do music videos on that.
I almost did a music video.
Video on TV if we just got out.
I like actually. There it is.
Videos on what?
Finish it off.
Oh, I entered nothing. I felt like I had zero stress. It's all like
I'm literally done.
Actually, no, I had such a long stress. No, it's just I double faced it. And I made it 24 months. Because it's easier to read.
If you use bigger letters, you look smarter.
Yeah, but still, I just
It's easier for you to read it. You're always smart.
it's easier to read. Keep this on stick. I feel it. You want to switch to your podcast?
Yes, Simone, out of all people.
I just know this is
Alan, you know, are you here for your basketball season? Are you here for your basketball? Randy's such a savage. He's like, I do yoga. I'm like, I don't do
Welcome to the Hat Wine Club. She's trying to like right here. She looks like she's oh, her brother looks the most American. Yeah, he does. She was like a skinny I put a Venus flytrap. A Venus flytrap.
Good morning, everyone.
I am Mrs. Quigley, for those of you who don't know me, and I am delighted to be able to launch the first session of this year's 8th grade project. And so the theme of this group is improving education. And as I was reading through their proposals, it became quite clear to me that there's a very interesting thread that goes through each of these, which I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk about later on. So we're going to have about a half hour today to address this particular topic, and we'll have Alan Don talking about an investigation of what makes a good teacher. Then we'll have David Jared talking about his investigative journey with primary students and their mindsets, using their prior knowledge of the IB learner profile traits. Sebastian will do an investigation of safety education for football players and their parents. And Nick will do an investigation of holograms and their potential in the classroom. Just to set the stage, because this is a new format for many of us, I want you to listen closely to what is going on and follow what the speaker is talking about. I want you to think critically, dig deep, really listen to what they're saying. I want you to try to make the connections between each of the various speakers. And lastly, think about questions that you may have when you're listening today, okay? So just to sort of give you an idea of where I came out when I heard and read all of their presentations, I'm going to share my common thread with you. What we teach and how we teach it are critical to successful learning, whether it is through Alan's research on student engagement and teaching methods, David Jarrett's investigation on student mindsets at the primary level, or Sebi's concern on safety education in football. Perhaps through holograms, Nick will show us how this technology can enrich the learning experience. What all of these students want is improvement in education, whether it is in or out of the traditional classroom setting. And so we'll kick off with our first presenter, Alan Duff.
Do I start?
Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, 80 service. So when we were starting our intern projects, we made collages based off limitations we felt there were in the world. And while I was thinking about topics I might want to do for my intern project, I remember a conversation I had with a few of my classmates about like a certain summative assessment and education. From there, I began to research education and what others must have done to make it more engaging for the students. So Mr. Dacus recommended to me that I should start by reading some of David Bertrand's work, as well as some of Harvard's Project Zero. So I read a few of his books, and I read a lot of articles online about it. For my global context, I chose personal cultural expression, and in that I wrote about IB, and I wrote about how I think a new system is needed to refresh and re-engage students. Things I created or designed for my action were surveys and graphics. So I created the first survey to see what the students thought about the issue, and I created the second survey to see what the teachers thought about the issue. I committed my action at home with the creation of these surveys, and at school when I was working on my infographic. After completing my service, I was surprised at how much work I actually did, as I'm a very lazy person. So in less than 2 weeks, I finished 2 surveys, I got responses for them, and I created an infographic out of those responses. So my action was designed for the students at Whitby and students in general. I feel like if some teachers and faculty members decided to change it, as I said, it would make school a lot more interesting for students and help them have a better education. So my action was first to create 2 surveys. I sent out these surveys with the help of Dr. Fry and Mr. Dacus, and I made the results I got into 2 data sets. From there, I used the data to create an infographic on Untitled Chapter, and I found out from the student survey that most students won't be taught using hands-on methods, but they felt like they weren't being taught that way. But from the teacher survey, I learned that teachers felt like they were teaching hands-on methods, and that was also their main preference. This is important, as I think we can make education a lot more effective if students are being taught in the ways they want to be taught, and they actually feel that way. The students want to be taught using hands-on methods, but they don't feel like it, but they don't feel like they are being taught using hands-on methods. My critical thinking skills have improved as I was able to recognize bias in my own writing and other people's writing as well. I've also improved my ability to draw conclusions from a data set, as I made an infographic based off data I got from surveys. And I was able to consider ideas from multiple perspectives, as when going over the results I got from the teacher survey, I considered why the teacher would say such things. I've improved my ability to communicate their interaction, as I've had many chats with Dr. Fry and Mr. Dacus about my topic and sharing our thoughts with each other. I've also managed to take feedback from my survey from Dr. Fry and improve my survey, which I would attribute to sticking to my own ideals while also be open to other people's ideas. So I felt like I managed to find good information about a subject that's quite hard to find relevant information about. I also think that I was able to report my findings in a meaningful way, my infographic and my proposal. And as shown above, I was able to present my information in a variety of formats and platforms, like the research journal, that was one of my slides, this presentation, an infographic, and a proposal.
So for my 8th grade project, I did an investigation of primary students' mindsets through the IB Learner Profile Traits and children's literature. My global context was identities and relationships, and it's talking about who I am and who are we. So when we first started 8th grade project, we made a collage about all the topics that we found that we had limitations on, and I chose positivity and having a positive mindset. So now I'm going to talk about my journey. So on the left here is when, I made a storybook, and in that storybook I had different learner profile traits that would connect with each situation. And here is me planning out with Dr. Fry, and then here is me making the book, and then here is me printing out the book. Who are Whitby primary students and teachers? What, I created a storybook about positivity using Nick Jr. characters Max and Ruby. Where at Whitby School in primary classes A, B, and C. And I chose to do it here because since I already go here, I already have a connection with the school. And why I did this? I did this because it's really important that this action was done. Because as students start to get older, they will start to learn new things. This includes negative thoughts and ideas. When they're first given to them, they won't know how to handle it. And by doing this, it teaches and encourages kids to have a positive mindset throughout life and throughout school. How? I served by going to primary classrooms and teaching them about the positive mindset. I learned by hearing the input from the teachers and students and what they already knew. This also helped me approach other classes that I would teach that day. I also learned by seeing what they thought about positivity and having a positive mindset in the classes and further reflecting and analyzing it. So one of the approaches to learning skills that I used for this project were critical thinking skills. Because I was able to revise my understanding based on the new information that I've been given from the primary students, and I was also able to consider different ideas from multiple perspectives from the kids. I also had the opportunity to find trends from what they were saying based on the classroom, age, and the ideas that they were faced with. Another ATL that I used were social and collaboration skills. I was able to practice empathy with the children of the ideas that they're dealt with and how to approach them using words and concepts that they already knew. I was able to give ways to help primary students succeed in the future by having a positive mindset. I was sustained to listen actively to other perspectives and ideas from the children and teachers about their experiences and opinions on the topic, things that they already did and things that they want to improve. I was also able to take on the leadership role in the classroom by acting as a teacher during the lesson, as well as stepping in their shoes because I was a primary student not that long ago. I also encouraged others to contribute to the discussion because it was really important for everyone to share their ideas so they could get the best out of the lesson. Another ATL that I used was communicating from language. So one of the examples that I found from this was a lot of kids knew the learner profile traits, but they didn't know exactly what they were. And so I had to modify what I was saying to base their understanding, and I had to talk like I was one of them. The last ATL that I used was information literacy. I used the information that I learned in my research to create a storybook about positivity using Nick Jr. characters Max and Ruby. I read this book to the 3 primary classes and analyzed it with them. We talked about the benefits of a positive mindset instead of a negative one. I was also able to make an unusual connection between the two so that the kids could understand what I was saying better by using real-life examples with children's characters. Quality of service reflection. It surprised me how much primary kids understood and how positive it seemed that they were. I would like to build on this action by going to all the classes to explain this concept, or at a primary assembly to share my ideas with all the primary students and teachers so that others can learn new things or get a refresher of what I've taught in class. If I were given a chance, I think that I would present my idea to the teachers first before presenting it to students and teachers. I would do this because teachers know the strengths and weaknesses of the kids and what they know and don't know. This would help me get a range of ways to explain my information and how to elaborate on the classes. And these are some of my pictures from my day of action. And here is mine.
This is my 8th grade project, the safety of youth football. Inspiration. When we first started 8th grade project, we made collages about our limitations that we felt about. My collage was mostly based off of like age, religion, height, etc. At first I didn't really feel passionate about my topics in my collage, so I couldn't really find any good information. So I asked to change topics to something I was more passionate about, that being football. Class. Once I was sure about my topic, I did research about an idea of what I wanted to do. In English class, which was the main class of 8th grade project, I researched about football-related injuries, the most popular one being concussions. So after gathering enough information and deciding what I wanted to do, I concluded that my final idea of 8th grade project would focus on the safety and development of youth football, particularly in Greenwich. My product, with the help of Dr. Fry, I figured out that I'd make 3 surveys. Each survey consisting of personalized questions for the coaches, parents, and the players in regards to the safety of youth football in Greenwich and in general. So far, I haven't gotten as many responses as I would like to, but many researchers debate how many responses is viable. But currently, I'm working with what I have. Coaches. Here are some sample questions I put in the survey for coaches. I did scale questions, which is like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about, etc., or whatever. I included those type of questions. I also included open-ended questions because it gave me more of a perspective and more personalized feel for the coach. From the coaches that I've received so far, I can tell that they've seen a huge increase in the priority of conditioning and safety in the league. One coach said that one of the biggest priorities for their team is to treat all injuries no matter severity, because they'd rather have you 75% during practice but 100% on game day. Unlike the coaches, the parents, were kind of divided. Some parents have had their children play in the GYFL since 3rd grade. That's the first eligible year you can play, and believe that if their child starts at a young age playing youth football, that their body will develop and they become strong enough to play, in high school and maybe in college. Here are some questions that I've had for them. How many years has your child been playing in the GYFL? And elaborated and open-ended one. Some parents needed some convincing from their children to play from other people, because in Greenwich Public Schools, majority of the players resonate from there, from Coscob, Byram, Old Greenwich, Riverside. And other parents decided to wait until their children were in 7th and 8th grade because their child was stronger and more developed. Players. Here are some questions that I asked players. Another scale question and an open-ended one. So the players were all basically on the same side. They absolutely love the GYFL and their coaches. They believe that what the coaches have told them and teach them about the fundamentals of football is very effective, and it's proven to be successful and safe when they're playing on football on Sunday. The global context that I chose in 8th grade project was development and fairness, because I wanted to see and analyze the development taking place in my community and its effect on others. So before and after 8th grade project, Ms. Sadakis and Dr. Fry made us do many surveys about the ATLs and IB learner profiles, and they made us take many surveys about how we felt about ourselves, and to compare and contrast after 8th grade project and before. So before, I was definitely closed-minded, and it was hard for me to see other perspectives that weren't mine, especially when I wrote the questions. And writing surveys and eliminating bias was something new for me, so I wasn't entirely comfortable with that. But after 8th grade project, I definitely felt that I was able to reflect upon others' opinions and perspective and compare and contrast against mine. I was also able to improve my ability to analyze data and responses and find patterns within the data. Thank you. Oh, okay. I'll just do this. Thanks.
Wait, no, because he's doing it on the computer.
Alright, so
but he's-
Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm working on holograms. I first started getting interested, I've always been interested in holograms. I first started to delve into it from my 7th grade Genius Hour project. And I found hologram pyramids. I made an iPhone compatible one that looks like this. More recently, I've started to get back into it, and I've made a much larger version. It's 12 times the size. I've been working from November 29th through December 11th, which is this Sunday. My research. I had a lot of prior knowledge from my 7th grade Genius Hour, so learning how to build the hologram pyramid was a matter of review. What I learned during my 8th grade project was that larger corporations were doing extensive research into the matter. Most notably is Microsoft, with their $3,000 HoloLens, which creates a mixed reality. This can be used for developers, it has a commercial aspect, it can be used for gamers, it can be used in pretty much everyday life. Except it's $3,000, which isn't cost effective. It's no secret that students are more effective when they're engaged. They're also more productive, and they do more work when they have more technology. That's what I found out. So I figured that a hologram prototype could achieve that result. So I think that this has a lot of potential, mostly in classrooms, yeah. So my action was to buy polystyrene, which is just a type of plastic, cut it up, and then create something like that. My first attempt failed miserably. It didn't work in any regard. My second successful attempt worked much more effectively. Instead of cutting it with scissors, I decided to score it and snap it. Using that method, I was able to create an iPhone compatible version, iPad compatible version, and 24-inch Samsung TV compatible. Why was it important that this actually be done? I wanted to encourage innovative technology in the classroom. Can you put that up? While Whitby definitely measures up to other educational institutions, I feel there's a lot of educational potential for unutilized technologies. This can be used in classes to demonstrate chemical reactions too unsafe to perform in the lab, or dissections that can't be done for whatever reason. This can be used in design to show 3D models of whatever, and it can be used in PE or life skills to show just anything. This can be used for presentations, it can be used to keep, and the main thing about this is that it increases attention span. How this affected my ATLs. Well, the critical and creative thinking, I think, was just being able to convert this so that it was compatible with this monitor. The communication, this is a form of media. This is actually, it's literally communication. So, reflective. I was able to go from my first hologram pyramid in my 7th grade Genius Hour to this. I was able to learn from what I failed on and get this, so that's pretty cool. The thing that's really cool about this is that it's effective, simple, diverse, and it's incredibly cheap. This has many uses, and it costs less than $20 to put together. It looks really cool, and if you want to make one for an iPad, it will cost you less than $15, and you'll be able to make 3 or 4. So, that's really it.
So, thank you, presenters. I think you all did a great job. What I'd like you to do.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, sorry. What I'd like to do now is to get some input from the audience. And so I'm going to leave you with 3 words to think about, and then I'll tell you what I'd like you to do after that. Think, feel, care. What did this make you think about as it relates to improving education? How did it make you feel? Was there something that really resonated with you? And care. What did it make you care about? So if we could, we have a couple of minutes. I'd like to take 2 minutes for each of you to look at the person next to you and have a conversation about what you heard and saw. And then we're going to get back in a large group, and I'll take a few questions for you to ask the presenters.
So I heard this is like this guy doing youth I like that. It's great.
Ladies and gentlemen, do we have questions? What I think would be really good is if we could sort of go row by row, and maybe we'll start from the back and work our way forward if we could. Does anybody have any questions based on your discussion for any of our presenters?
Cricket.
I was surprised about how much 8th graders care about education and how much they research.
Thank you. Anyone else?
How does the hologram work?
The hologram's not actually a hologram, it's an optical illusion. It's just a reflection. There's a reason that it's cheap.
As we move forward, any other questions?
I'm just wondering about the accessibility of the hologram for classroom use. Like, if somebody is sensitive to flickering lights or prone to epileptic seizures or something, would the hologram be a difficult thing for them to work with?
It could work for them, it kind of depends on what video you're using. For instance, I don't see any problem with I don't see this causing any problems for them. Like, it's not exactly epileptic.
So, looking at your computer, can you show us one of your holograms? I was just wondering, because I saw it last year, but does it work on the computer?
Yeah, it works on the computer. One thing that I did with this last night was actually I made holograms of most of the 8th graders, so.
Wait, what?
I got bored.
It's so creepy.
What was your process of making it?
Nikki, one more question for you.
One more question for Nick.
What was your process of making the hologram overall?
Buying plastic, breaking plastic, buying more plastic, cutting plastic, and myself, then putting this together.
Any other questions for some of our other presenters?
Sebi, how did you get the surveys to the coaches and students?
So at first I have, so basically, similar to Mr. China, if you don't know already, so they have like this all-school email sort of thing that they do. They do it with Veracross. Similar to the GYFL, the president, I had to email him, talk about it with him and send it to them. I only sent it to the seniors because I didn't want to I don't want to get like a billion responses and overwhelm myself. So I sort of narrowed it down because it'd be more realistic.
One more question.
David Jared, are you planning to just go into the classrooms again, the primary classrooms? Are you wanting to go to speak to the whole primary in the past? Are you aiming for?
Well, I would really like to go in an assembly to talk to all of them to make sure that all of them get the message because I didn't go to all classes.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. So there's going to be a 5-minute pass time if the audience would like to switch venues and go to the TAC. And the next group will start in 5 minutes.
You're so creepy. What did he make the whole What did he make the whole
Just did anybody got a good What happens when I get bored, okay?
That's the real voice.
Younger brother trying.
Are we going to sit in the front row?
Wait, is this right? Wait, no, I'm going to check a time. I know, would they be
Stop!
I am thrilled to introduce our second session of 8th grade project today in the library. And as you can see, we are here to take a look at the adversity and the overlooked. So I'm going to give a brief introduction, then we'll hear from 3 of our 8th graders before I tie it together with a common thread, and then have some time for you to talk about your thoughts on their presentations today. So it's easy to overlook precious resources that seem plentiful in our lives. This includes overlooking the benefits and availability of healthy food, as Adam will discuss. Elena will share her thinking about water usage and management, an often overlooked resource so long as water flows from our taps. Simone will bring to our attention the value of character development from adversity, a learning experience in school that can be overlooked if grades are the only concern. Throughout these 3 presentations, we will be challenged to look at food, water, and character in new ways, and consider our role in valuing these resources for ourselves and for our global community. Just a quick word about expectations. I know you've seen this in the earlier session. Listen closely by tracking the speaker, think critically, make connections, and note any questions that you have throughout the presentation. Adam?
So for my 8th grade project, I chose malnutrition. What? For my 8th grade project, I cooked and donated a meal to help feed homeless children in an organization in Costco. Who? The organization is called Kids in Crisis, and they had a program which allows you to make a meal and donate it to homeless children. When? I started my program on November 29th on my day of action, where I created a menu and grocery list for the meal I would make, and then on December 11th, I later finished it when I actually made the meal and donated it. What interested me? I first realized what interested me when I made a collage about my interests and what my limitations were. And I also realized that something I generally like to do could be my topic for 8th grade projects. What surprised you? I was surprised by actually how much labor was involved and how much we really wanted to make a full meal, because the requirements was just a protein and a vegetable, but we went all out to buy drinks and dessert and all that. So, where? I chose this organization because A, it's a great cause, and also it's really close to my home. As you can see here, this is a map, it's 5 minutes away, and it allows you to make a meal and just donate it for kids who need it. Why? This was important because these kids really needed a healthy meal compared to their normal meal, which is something like lasagna or something like that. And so it's also nice to give them a different taste after having one meal for forever, really. Creative thinking. Well, for creative thinking, I had to find my topic, and once I found my topic and what I wanted to do, I had to come up with an action, and along with that, some menu ideas, because there are certain restrictions like nut allergies and what you have to have. So this is ended up being my menu. Social skills. I had to contact the organization that I donated to, which proved harder than I thought, and I also had to coordinate a date and time to deliver the meal. Quality of service. I think the quality of my service was pretty high because I didn't just go to a restaurant and just buy a meal and deliver it. I actually spent the whole day making one. As you can see, here's the process. And it took a lot of effort. Interaction. So like I said, getting in contact with the organization was much harder than I thought, because even the most formal form of communication, which was email, didn't work at all because they just didn't answer. So I actually had to end up calling them, but that was a day before my day of action, so I had to deliver it on a later date. Communication skills. I had to do research on the topic once I figured out what it was, and I also had to do research about the organization to find a program. Information literacy. I had to create a journal of my process along the way. This is one of the slides from it, along with a proposal, and I created a menu, like I showed you before. Media literacy. So I had to gain information from lots of different sources, including their organization's website, and I also had to use different medias to communicate with them, so as email. What did I learn? I learned that a lot more labor goes into preparing a large-scale meal than you actually think, and that a good nutritious meal is always better than something prepared in 5 minutes. How would you build on this? I would encourage a lot more people to try eating healthier and try healthier alternatives. And what I would do differently is probably start to prepare the meals, ingredients, and supplies, and make sure I had everything before the day I was going to deliver it, because I actually found out that I needed serving platters and all that, and I had to make a mad dash to buy them. Also, another interesting fact, have you ever heard that when you eat meat, and adults tend to stay away from meat because the oil clogs your arteries? Well, this is what happened to the oil that we took out from the meat after being sat out for 30 minutes. So that's why adults tend to stay away from eating a lot of meat. In all, I think that having a healthy meal is important, and that give people a healthy one is also. These are my sources. Thank you.
So for the 8th grade project, I decided to do the topic of water and how we are running out of water. So how my personal experiences influenced my ideas. Before the project, I had already a lot of information about the issue of water. Having lived in California for the past 4 years in a drought, and then in 5th grade having to do my exhibition project on the issue of water. So the global context that reflects my project is the fairness in development. Fairness in development talks about rights and responsibilities as humans towards the planet we live on. This fits with my project because we're responsible for Earth's resources, and including water, and we're throwing away that responsibility by using water for whatever we want. So, my action. So the quality or degree of excellence to my service community. So my service was teaching 4th graders about the limitations of water. My sister was in one of those classes, and my mom does this thing after school where she asks us what we learned that day. That day, my sister talked about how I came into the class and taught them about the issue of water. She said a lot of the facts that I had presented, and so from that I could conclude that they had learned a lot, which means my quality of service would have been very high. So my action was on November 29th at Whitby School. I started my day of action by working in the library, preparing for the 2 classes I was going to teach. Later that day, I actually taught the 4th grade classes about the limitations of water. What I learned from my day of action. From my day of action, I learned that it can be quite a struggle to keep the 4th graders' attention on me for about 45 minutes, as well as I did this by keeping the presentation interactive and always asking questions and doing an experiment at the end of the presentation. Some students came up with ideas on how to save water at the end that I hadn't even thought of myself. I learned a lot from them and how they viewed the world as 4th graders. One of the questions I asked was, what's the best way to wash your car? The choices I gave them were to wash it in the driveway, drive it into the lake, or take it into a car wash that recycles water. A lot of the kids chose drive it into the lake because they thought it would be a smart way to be able to have the water go back into the lake. I hadn't even thought of it as an option. I just put it in as like an extra choice, and they found reason behind this answer, which I thought was pretty amazing. So in the future, I will continue to spread the word about this issue, and as well as save water at home by myself. So, I improved my communication skills by speaking with the 4th graders and getting their ideas and coming up with ways on how to save water. In communicating through language, I improved on taking notes because I improved on paraphrasing what the sources told me and then using these notes for my project. I improved on my organization skills because I kept all of my files in my 8th grade project folder on Google Drive, and I always knew where all my work was. This caused me to always be able to turn in all of my project on time. I improved my affective skills by improving my mindfulness. I did this in class when we were researching and preparing for our day of action. I did this by staying focused and overcoming any distractions, which are quite a few of. I achieved this by surrounding myself with productive people that were on task.
I improved on my information and literacy skills when I was researching for my project because every time you research, you improve those research skills. Furthermore, I've improved on my information literacy by being on top of my sources and making sure to cite these sources in the proposal that we have to create. I improved on my media literacy skills by taking all of my research and drawing conclusions from that research. Lastly, I improved my creative thinking skills by coming up with new ways to save water in my own life. I also improved my creative thinking skills by making others aware of the issue by teaching students.
Okay. For my 8th grade project, I did an investigation on how the meaning of failure affects the 8th grade, especially during this time of the year when they're applying to high schools. I had over 40 respondents from the 8th grade and who participated in my survey. Some were 7th graders, by the way. But these, which I had questions that guided my thesis. I was inspired to do this research because I realized last year I wrote a lot of class fiction stories surrounding the concept of failure. My survey was meant for 8th graders and to learn more about the process of adversity and joy. Where I made this was on a website called SurveyMonkey to gather feelings of the 8th graders in a safe environment. What I learned was that majority of the 8th graders feel they need to be an A-star student. And here, a similar percentage, 73%, feel they need to be a successful adult. Now take a look here. I asked the students where they found the worth. And, sorry. Now take a look here. I asked the students where they found their worth. A lot of 8th graders found their worth more in their parents' views in contrast to their high school views. And then here I asked 8th graders to choose an IB learner profile they identified most with. The top 3 were open-minded, thinker, and risk-taker. And from my knowledge of this vocabulary, I'm confident in saying that these students can overcome their fears of failure or their worries of success. What I learned was that what I learned from this project was how to design a survey on SurveyMonkey from a fellow friend and classmate, Sophia Viscarello. As well, this experience has played in a small part of what I want to write in my 8th grade graduation speech. I know, I'm prepared. Although one thing I would have liked to change is to done this survey abroad and have more focus groups to talk about failure, as well include more of the 7th grade. My quality of service I think was really positive because I had a number of 44 participants in my survey, and I gave a chance for the 8th grade to deeply reflect on failure. As well, provided them an optional space to share stories, and now I have important data for us to know and talk about. For critical thinking skills, I really struggled to figure out what I wanted to do and what I wanted to communicate, and what I wanted to share here with the community. But I overcame the struggle by doing my own research. For information literacy skills, I was able to keep my research organized through a journal and keep things in my own words, like my proposal paper, survey, and infographic. But these things were all meant for multiple audiences, like my teachers, 8th graders, and to you guys. Some final words I would like to say is that here at Whitby, we are reminded how incredibly fortunate we are. And our status and our responsibilities will have an impact on us that goes way beyond our time here. It is from our adversities we learn to empathize more with others whose experiences we can never imagine. Communication and open-mindedness helps us to see what we might otherwise want to ignore. We are truly measured by our ability to overcome our adversities. So 8th graders, take these chances, make these small failures. They are our privileges as well as our burdens. Thank you.
Okay, so just tie this together with a few words to make some connections, and then you'll have an opportunity as well to talk with each other and make some connections and also ask questions of the three presenters. So from the quality and amount of food available for all, to sustainable management of water, to learning the value of character development when faced with adversity, we are challenged by these 8th graders to really look at resources and issues that are overlooked and maybe even taken for granted. Adam reminded us that it's not only the quantity of food that we should consider, but also the quality of the food to maintain health and well-being. Elena took action to raise awareness about water as one of Earth's most precious resources, necessary for all living organisms on our planet. Simone discovered that adversity in learning can lead to personal development, especially in being open-minded thinkers and risk takers. I propose that these overlooked resources are more valuable to us as a global community than we may think. In the coming years, we'll need to find a way to feed 9 billion people by 2050 and ensure the availability of clean water for all. It is through a strength of character and developing the IB learner profile traits that we will build empathy to care about our planet, the creativity and risk-taking to innovate solutions to complex problems, and the open mind to consider the different perspectives within a system. So we thank you, 8th graders, for opening our eyes and encouraging us to look at these important issues, both through your thoughtful investigations and through the meaningful action that you took to be involved in our community. Thank you. All right, so we have a few minutes, and I'm just going to set the stage for you to have a conversation with the person sitting next to you. This is a thinking routine. A few questions. What are you thinking about these issues right now? How do you feel about these issues? And why do you, or why should we as a community care about these issues? So take a few minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, to talk with the person next to you about any of these, as well as thinking about any questions that you might have for Adam, Elena, and Simone. open it up to all of you. If you have something that you'd like to share that you discussed about what you're thinking, how you're feeling, what you care about, as well as any questions. And I think what we'll do, it worked in the first session quite well, is just start in the back. And Dr. Fry is coming around with a microphone so you can address any comments or questions to the whole group.
Sally and I actually had two questions for Simone. Sally's question was, do you see this anxiety or fear of failure in younger children as well? Because Sally's in 6th grade and sees it among many of her friends. And then my question was, did you gather any information about how students are coping with this, or what we as a community can do to help support them?
So for the first question from Sally, I would assume that there's a lot of stress in younger students because I was a 6th grader before, and I knew like the struggles of being in 6th grade, and it's a different work ethic transitioning from 5th grade to 6th grade. There's a lot more to do, and you have a lot more responsibility. For your second question, I actually had on my survey, what do students do to fix this? I asked them, do you go to parents, fix it yourself, or do you find a friend to help you? And majority of them said they try to fix things by themselves.
Yeah, so Melis and I had a question for all three of you actually. We heard you speak about your projects and what you did and how you addressed, the IB learner profile. How can we find out more about the content? Meaning, Adam, what is the organization Kids in Crisis? How many kids are there? Why are they there? How many kids did you feed? How much did the meal cost? And what does it mean for a working family to put that on the table as a question? For Elena, what are ways to conserve water? So we heard you speak about it, but we were wondering where we can access the content of your work. And for Simona, similarly, we would like to hear how are 8th graders coping, and perhaps what is it we can do as teachers to help them? So if you could let us know, maybe not right now if that's not a good moment, but please think of ways of sharing with the school how we can dig more into the important topics you covered. Thank you.
For our English class, we all three of us have infographics. We will be sharing them later, or handing them to teachers after our unit is finished, and right before winter break.
I had a question for the first and second presentation. For the first presentation, while you were delivering and making your food, did you think about the issue of staying healthy while making your meal? And for the second presentation,
Well, I did try and stay as healthy as possible with the meal because, for example, I did have to make a vegetable, so I tried to make a very healthy one, which is a salad instead of something like fried vegetables. And for the protein, like I showed you before, I took out much of the oil that was involved with the cooking, so yeah, I did.
For the second presentation, I said, how can we at home help conserve the amount of water that we use every day?
So you can help conserve water. One of the biggest ways we lose water without knowing is leaks. That you can lose up to 100 gallons of water per day with a leak. Taking shorter showers, being just mindful about where you use water, and if you have a better alternative to using that resource, that helps
So this ties into the first and the second presentation. Do people that go hungry, do they have access to water usually?
Well, for these certain people, they do have access to water because they're being sheltered, but a lot of people don't really have access to clean water.
I mean, it depends where you are. Some places they're just running out of water because it's too dry and they're in droughts. So then they don't have access to water, but it depends where you are.
So my question is for Simone. I was just asking, like, did you find, I saw one of the questions said, like, what adversity have you seen, like, any certain, like, correlations between, like, what people said, for those and, like, different things?
Well, a common correlation, I can say, like, some of them were pretty mild, but some of them were very deep that they shocked me, so I wouldn't share them. But majority, it's something it had a school-related topic or a family-related topic.
Time for one more. For Adam, I was wondering what gets like kids into Kids in Crisis, and how old do you have to be to go?
There isn't really an age limit. It's just you have to be in. I guess you have to be in that area, and you have to be without a home or without a job. Because most of the people living there don't have a job or a car or something or anything like that. So it requires them to be sheltered there.
So I want to thank the 8th graders for presenting right now, and also all of you for being such engaged audience members and participants in this conversation right now. We are going to wrap up this first round of 8th grade project conferences and look forward to another one with another set of 8th graders in February, I think, or next semester. So again, thank you very much. We are going to take now about a 10-minute break, and class will start at 9:30.
Second period.
Second period, right. Thank you. It's for students, for kids who are like, it's like what do you got? Come off of it. I don't know.
I have a question.
Right on time.
Are those priority meetings? Yeah. Not even a mention? Oh, God.
But it's around
It's not all of them.
Now, I'm just,
they actually live in the building. They have
oh, it's like a center? It is a center. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That might take me more.
Yeah. I wouldn't exactly. I haven't looked into it much, but I would kind of assume so, just because if you're more engaged, it's more likely to stick with you. Yeah.
At your convenience at all. Whenever you let me know.
All right.
Because we will always do the second period.
Yep. See you up there in 7 minutes. Yep.
Thanks for your help, Jeff.
No.
We couldn't have done it without you, really.
No.
We would have had like 6 break-ins and.
I'm gonna leave this here and
I might come in at lunch and just kind of mess around with this.
It's fine with me as long as it's okay with technology-wise for us to keep it in here.
Yeah, he's gonna email me, we agreed when we're ready to put things back where they belong.
And how did you all make the connection? Nikki, did one of us or did you connect with Mr. Clark?
What?
Did you connect with Mr. Clark to get all the technology or did one of us do that for you?
I emailed Mr. Clark.
He called me first, probably well out in advance, maybe a month ago, I think, to give me a heads up about it. At that time, I asked him for just some written,
Yeah, I got that
clarification, and I got that over the weekend, which was helpful.
And well, I'm gonna have to give you credit for that because I didn't even know about it.
Except I kind of bombed that on the presentation.
You know, I was out in the hallway trying to keep people from charging you because you were so popular. Everybody wanted to end during your session, and so I didn't get to hear you. I'm so sorry. Really? Did you just get nervous? You're pretty good at winging it normally, though. How are you? Not this time.
For what it's worth, I thought you really stepped away from your text, which seemed really natural. It seemed like really good presentation style. You weren't dependent on, standing right in front of your slides and things like that, and that came across as pretty impressive. I thought.
You might want to give him some feedback on that. Thanks, Mr. Clark.
You're welcome. No, it's done, I think. That's it. No, I think they're done. So they have another one, but it's, I think in February. So it'll be the remaining students.
Hay come back for me to say,
Yeah, you need.
what time?
Sorry?
What time it is? 11, 12?
I jumped in front of you. No, I don't know. I think they're done. But I did ask Nicholas to tell me when I can remove that. Yeah. So I'll put that table back where I got it.
Just about.
it seemed interesting. It seemed to resonate a little bit, yeah. It's a powerful tool. It's very accessible. These guys, two guys who went to financial, I asked them for the data, and they said, Google Finance.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. If you can learn it, this approach, how to use that data, and there's also, we should do that data. But I mean, to understand what your raw materials is. But yeah, I mean, gosh. Actually, I just asked them, and they answered. I didn't really get to go through that here. Or they actually did just thread in what they're doing. Yeah, well, it's a bit of a stretch, but one of the things they talked about was having a high school course or program. They call it a program. I wanted to ask them to reply to that. I couldn't ask them a question. So what would be in that program? Are you? No, I don't.